So, Greatland Resources just had a big town hall for their investors, and it was absolutely packed with updates. If you didn't catch it, no worries. We've gone through all of it and pulled out the absolute key highlights. We're going to build the investment case for the company piece by piece. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, first up, you've got to understand just how much Greatland has transformed. I mean, it's been a massive change. They've just shot up the ranks and are now officially Australia's third largest gold miner. That's a huge deal, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about.
So, how did they pull that off? Well, it comes down to being wildly profitable. You see that number? $2,700? That's how much profit they make on every single ounce of gold they dig out of the ground. Think about that. With gold prices where they are today, they are just printing cash. And listen, that margin, it's not just good. It's genuinely best in class. You can stack them up against anyone else in the sector, and their ability to generate cold, hard cash from their operations, it puts them right at the very top, no question. All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll look at how they became this new mining powerhouse. Then we'll dive into the four pillars of the investment case: the revitalized engine, the growth catalyst, that fortress balance sheet, and a pretty sweet bonus upside. And we'll finish up with what's coming next on their catalyst-rich roadmap. Okay, pillar number one, the revitalized engine. This whole story is about the Telfer asset. For the longest time, the word on the street was that Telfer was done for, a spent asset pretty much ready for shutdown. But Greatland looked at it and saw something completely different. And what they've done with it, well, it's pretty staggering. Just look at the sheer scale of this turnaround. It's unreal. When they got Telfer, it had a resource of just 600,000 ounces. Fast forward only 15 months, and through some really smart drilling, that number is now 8 million ounces. That's a 12x increase. It completely changes the game for this mine's future. And a huge reason for Telfer's new life is its amazing infrastructure. I mean, this chart says it all. Look at their competitive edge. It costs them just $18 to process a ton of ore. The industry average, $34. They're doing it for almost half the cost. That kind of efficiency is what fuels those massive profits. And it's not just one magic bullet either. They have just been relentless in driving efficiency everywhere. Underground productivity, up nearly 50%. Development rates, they've skyrocketed by 250%. And they're literally pulling more gold and copper out of every single rock they process. The best part? They did all of this while making the mine safer and cutting costs. It's just phenomenal work. All right, let's move on to the second pillar, the growth catalyst. So now that Telfer is humming along as this profitable engine, where does the big growth come from? The answer is the Havieron project. This, right here, is the future. And believe me, it is a total game changer. So what exactly is Havieron? Simply put, it's a world-class, top-tier gold and copper project. And here's the secret sauce. They're going to take this super high-grade ore from Havieron and process it using Telfer's super low-cost plant. You put those two things together, that is the perfect recipe for just insane profit margins. And when I say high-grade, I mean it. The ore coming out of Havieron is 5 times richer than the stuff they're currently feeding the mill from Telfer. 5 times. That means every single truckload, every ton they process is going to spit out way more gold, and that means way, way more cash. And the good news is, the path to get this thing running is super clear. They're really just waiting for the final green light from the EPA, which they think will happen this year. Once they get that, it triggers the board's final investment decision, and then it's full steam ahead. And get this, they're not even starting from zero. They've already dug over 300 meters of the main tunnel down to the deposit. That's a huge head start. Of course, all this grand ambition costs money, right? Which brings us perfectly to pillar number 3, the fortress balance sheet. And let me tell you, Greatland's financial position is just rock solid. They are more than ready to pay for this growth. So what are we talking about here? Well, as of the end of March, the company had $1.2 billion in cash, just sitting in the bank. And that's cash generated straight from their Telfer operations. But here's the real kicker: zero debt. Nothing. A balance sheet that clean is incredibly rare and powerful. It gives them so much flexibility and just takes a massive amount of risk off the table for investors. So, you take that cash pile, you add in another $500 million from a credit line they haven't even touched, and you get to a war chest of $1.7 billion. That is more than enough money to build Havieron and fund everything else they want to do. Okay, On to our final pillar, number 4. I like to call this one the bonus upside. It's a world-class asset that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. It's called the O'Callaghan's deposit.
And you don't have to take my word for how good it is. The company's own MD, Sean Day, came right out and said it. O'Callaghan's maps as one of the 3 best tungsten assets in the world. I mean, come on. To have an asset of that quality, one of the top 3 on the entire planet, just sitting there in your back pocket, on top of everything else, that's an incredible position to be in. So let's pull all these pieces together and look at what's next, because this isn't a company that's sitting on its hands. They have a very clear roadmap ahead, filled with milestones that investors are going to want to watch very closely. So here's what you need to keep an eye on over the next year or so. First up, we're expecting a big Telfer reserve upgrade. That's where they officially turn all that new exploration success into bankable reserves. Next, we'll see the Havieron EPA approval, which is the final regulatory hurdle. That should be followed pretty quickly by the final investment decision, the official go button to build the mine. And through all of this, they're still drilling at Telfer, so we could see even more resource growth. Every single one of these points is a potential catalyst to drive the stock higher. So let's just recap, right? You've got a profitable core business that's an absolute cash machine. You've got a world-class growth project that's about to get the green light. You have a fortress balance sheet with 0 debt to pay for it all. And you have a free world-class bonus asset on the side. When you put all that together, it really makes you wonder, what's next for one of Australia's newest mining powerhouses?